I love farming. I just love being in the garden and seeing things sprout and grow. We can grow throughout the year now. And that is even good because when you grow during the dry season, not many people are growing. In the market, you will enjoy a better price. So I'm Joseph Muyeti Azema. I started farming as a child at home. And when I grew up, I actually went to university and studied agriculture. Got my bachelor's from Makerere University, and after working for 1 year, I went to the Netherlands and studied for my master's in agricultural economics and management, and then came back to Uganda to start work. And then after a few years, I got interested in self-employment and I started farming. That's when I bought the land here and started farming. First it was poultry, and then later we entered into horticulture as well. As to why we chose vegetable farming here, Kabanyoro is very close to the market, our market being Kampala really. So we chose vegetable farming, and we chose kind of exotic vegetables. So we do lettuce, we do sweet corn, and we do red and yellow peppers in the greenhouse. We're also experimenting with tomatoes and onions. Those are the ones we have chosen because we believe we can have control in the market and we can grow them all year round. The initial investments to start a vegetable farm like the one we have, you need to have access to land first and foremost. Once you have the land, the next most important is water. You need to have water. Without water, you cannot really do farming, especially if you want to do it all year round. You need to be able to irrigate when the water is not there. Fertilizers, manures. We personally use organic manures all the way. So you need a source of that. As to the resources to start a farm like this, in my case, it was from savings. I often tell people the cheapest source of funding is savings from your earnings. So I do consultancies and I had jobs and I saved up money. And from that money, I started setting up. And sometimes it's better to start setting up the farm while you are still working, because in farming, there are quite a lot of challenges that are unforeseen. By the time you come fully employed in the farming, you need to have a backup source of financing to keep you going as you establish the farm. For tools and equipment for this vegetable farming or horticultural farming, you basically need the hoe, the normal hoe, and maybe the pangas, the slashers, because sometimes the land you're going to start out has trees and other things that you have to slash away. And for the kind of farming we do, you need a lot of mulch. So grass to mulch, and the mulching keeps in the water, of course, and helps, like in this case, our lettuces, they remain very clean. So for the techniques we use in planting, it depends on which vegetable you're growing actually. Each of them has certain needs. Tomatoes, for example, there is a disease in the soil, and where we grow the tomatoes, we love to put their ash. Ash has something that helps against the wilting. So we put that. For these lettuces that we grow here, we just put in manure, cow dung manure, and then we mixed it with the soil and planted. Sometimes if there are diseases you observe, then you have to get the right chemicals to spray. So now in growing our lettuce, as you can see, they are all in smart lines, giving us the ability to work with the plants easily. And also we do drip irrigation. We do irrigation with tubes, and we need to have them in line so that each plant gets its water and its nutrition within a certain area, so that each of them has enough space to grow. We also love organized farming, where we grow everything in lines. It looks beautiful. But originally it is because we do drip irrigation, and we also know the spacing, for example, for lettuce is 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters, so we keep to that. On the question of soil health and fertility, like I told you, we love organic farming. So we collect cow dung and other poultry manure and we decompose it, and that is what we use. You know, when you put organic manures in the ground, they improve the soil health. You will have more worms, the good worms, earthworms, and the soil humus content will increase, and that gives us water holding capacity. This is cow dung actually, decomposed cow dung. It's like a sponge. So when you put it in the soil, it helps to hold more water in the root zone of the plant you have planted. So it improves the health of the plant. Sometimes we may also apply the inorganic fertilizers, but not full time. Our main is organic fertilizers. Pest and weed management. For the weeds, you can look at all the 10 or so beds we have of lettuce here. You can hardly see any weeds because we use the weave plastic. The wood plastic smothers the weeds, but the other use for it, of course, is to keep our lettuce clean. So we use that, and where we don't have enough wood plastic, we use leaves. So there we've mulched the garden with bamboo leaves. We have bamboo. So that's how we control the weeds. For the pests, it depends on what disease, if any, we observe. Like for this lettuce, we grew it without spraying because it's been virgin here, I guess, for lettuce, or maybe lettuce is too new to the bugs, they don't know it. But we've not sprayed them with any chemical against insects. We only observed a small infection of fungal disease, which we spray in the first few weeks and then stop to just make sure the ground is clean of it. And then the rest of the life, they just grow without spraying. And we're also experimenting with organic chemicals, making them ourselves, mixing ash, hot pepper, garlic, and other stinky things that we then ferment and spray on our crops to repel the bad guys, and in some cases also to cure some of the diseases. For the planting technique and crop rotation, we'll have ecological agriculture. So we really use mostly organic manures. We use organic manures, mostly cow dung. We mix it into the soil, which also contributes to soil health, and then we do plant. After we've planted these crops for like 3 times, then we bring a different crop that is not related to this to rotate. It's called crop rotation, and that helps if there are insects that love this lettuce, for example, and diseases that love it. The crop rotation, bringing another crop like sweet corn, helps to cut off the bugs that were eating the lettuces, and then we grow the sweet corn. And then afterwards, we can bring back the other crops again. And that helps in sustainability of the farm without using much chemicals, just cultural practices. For soil health and fertility, we majorly use organic fertilizers, organic manures, and mostly cow dung. That one we collect here at the farm and we decompose it using microbes which we get from Makerere. We decompose it and then we apply it in our beds. We apply generously, so even some has fallen in the, you can see. So this is the cow dung decomposed that we then apply through the whole. Here we have made beds, so we apply in the beds, dig it in, and then plant. And this encourages microorganisms to grow. It encourages earthworms, which burrow in the soil, gives air to the plants, and the plant health is enhanced, as you can see. They are very happy, hardly any diseases. Bugs can eat a little bit, but not much, because they are strong and growing well. At Nature's Farms, when it comes to controlling weeds, we have 2 methods. The first method is using weed plastic. We cover the ground with plastic, which is porous. Actually, when we water, when it rains, water goes through. And then we make holes on the plastic where we plant our lettuce, in this case. That controls the weeds. The weeds cannot come through. Only our plants in the holes we have made come through. Then on the side of disease management, we would like to be as organic as possible. So we are experimenting with making our own pesticides from locally existing ingredients like hot pepper, ash, garlic, and neem leaves. We crush them, let them ferment, and then we spray on our plants. And the other one is we don't spray every week. Like, we only spray when there is a problem. And we follow the guides that they give, because what we grow here is what we also eat, and I wouldn't like to eat plants that are full of chemicals. Actually, it was one of the reasons I went into farming, to produce food for myself. So we use chemicals very seldom and only when necessary. So how long I've been in farming, I started in 2003, but at home we used to farm. But personally, I started in 2003, initially with poultry farming. Then I had to go abroad and I lived there for quite a while, so I stopped. And when I came back, I restarted, this time mainly with horticulturals and plantation crops, which are at a different farm than this one. So some of the challenges we have faced in horticultural farming or vegetable farming is the market. Sometimes the market is up and down, and you need to be able to time, otherwise you'll produce, like there is a time we produce a lot of watermelons and everybody had produced watermelons. Some of them rotted in the garden. So you need to be able to have the right market in order to actually make it in farming. If you can't have the market, even though you know how to grow the things very well, you may eventually fail. So it's important to have market. And the other challenge is water. If you're growing vegetables and you don't have enough water, you may also have a problem. Luckily for us, we were able eventually to set up a well where we pump water and we can grow throughout the year now. And that is even good because when you grow during the dry season, not many people are growing. In the market, you will enjoy a better price. So this is our nursery where we raise the seedlings. At the moment, there are not many because some are outside doing the hardening. As you can see here, we have lettuce seedlings growing. We have the green, the one we have preferred is Levistro, and the red is Concord. There are more varieties, but we're first growing these. When we get used to this, then we'll get other types. These are still young, and what we do, the medium we mix. On the market, you have peat moss and cockpit. We use none of that here. We found our own creative way of preparing seedling soil. What we do, we use rice charcoal dust, and then our cow dung manure and normal soil. So we get soil, we steam it to get rid of all the germs and the worms and the seeds. We steam the soil, then we also steam our manure, and the charcoal dust we don't steam because it's already sterile. We mix the three in some proportion according to the plant. Like sweet corn, it doesn't like cow dung. It burns the leaves, so we don't put cow dung. We just put rice husks, charcoal dust, and soil. For this lettuce, we put all the three, and tomatoes we put all the three. So that's how we do it, and then we cover them here. For example, for the lettuce, it takes 30 days to be ready for the main garden. 20 days in here in the little greenhouse, then the 10 days outside where we do hardening before we transplant them. And in the field, the red takes longer to mature. The green takes about 6 weeks in the field, and the red about 8 weeks. That way you get fewer of them dying in the main garden. Inside here, in regard to watering, we water them in the morning when it's a hot day like this, lunch hours, and then in the evening. Yeah, that is enough water. They don't need too much, otherwise they will die. So why we put the seedlings after the nursery house, we bring them outside in direct sunshine. We call this part hardening off. That's why we put them in the sunshine, and they are still under our close care. We can give them water and monitor how they are developing. Here they develop the hardiness so that when we take them to the final growing place, they don't suffer from heat shock. And while we put them here, you see we have trays. We actually cover them at night. And why? See these big fellows? These are shells from snails. If you leave them uncovered, the snails come out at night and they will eat. They will eat most of them. So you need to cover them if you take them out for hardening. And they are here for 10 days. Inside the greenhouse, 20 days. Here 10 days, and then they go to the garden where they spend the red 8 weeks, the green 6 weeks, and then they will be ready for the market. This is our soil steaming drum. This is where we steam our soil and our manure. We put water. We have stones in there, bricks. We put water, and then we put a wire mesh on top on which we put our substance, if it is manure, whether manure or soil. And then we light fire under, and we cover this with banana leaves and put about 10 fingers of bananas. So as it boils, the steam comes through the soil or the manure and heats it up. When the bananas are ready on top, we know that our soil or manure is ready. So one of the things we also do, we don't waste any of our residues here. So when we eat bananas, matoke or ripe bananas, we save the peelings, and if some are overripe, we also save them. And we put them in buckets and put water, and they ferment. After fermenting, we dilute them and give them to our plants. They are a rich source of nutrients, especially potassium, which is good for flowering and fruiting. So this is where we decompose our manure. We get the cow dung and also abattoir manure. We go where they slaughter cows and we buy the manure and bring it here. And we build these silos. We have bamboo, so we use our bamboo to make the silos. The silo has to be 1 meter wide because we use decomposition microbes that we got from Makerere. And the silo needs to be only 1 meter wide so that the oxygen or air can go up to the middle. It is necessary for the microbes that decompose. And then it can be as high as you are able to throw the manure, and as long as your pieces of wood are able to support. So we load it, we inoculate it with the microbes that we buy. then load it in here, and within 3 weeks to 4 weeks, the manure is basically well decomposed. And then after here, we take it to the dryer if it has to go to the store. If it doesn't have to go to the store, we basically just take it to the garden, spread it on the beds, and it aerates there, and it is hot when it comes from here. So if we just take it direct, we don't plant immediately. We let it a few days to aerate and mix with the soil, then we can plant. After the manure has been in the silo, it's ready. We then bring it into the solar dryer where it is dried and then made ready for use in the garden. As you can see, this one is really good. We're supposed to turn it from time to time so that it can dry well. And after here, it's ready for the garden. This is the color of fully decomposed manure. It becomes brownish. This solar dryer is 8 meters by 12 meters, so that is 96 square meters. Ideally, one of the silos we saw out is supposed to be dried here in like 3-4 days. So, and the thickness should be about 10 centimeters. And after here, the manure is ready for packaging and branding and selling, or for taking to our own gardens. So here is where we plant the rest of the lettuce. Where I showed you is the older one, but every 10 days we plant. So that means also every 10 days we transplant new plants. So like here, this and this were planted at the same time. Then after 10 days, those ones came. The next seedlings that were being hardened off, they are coming down below these 1, 2, 3, 4 beds. So, and the ones that were in the greenhouse, the babies will come thereafter. So this week we are going to plant new ones that will replace the ones in the nursery bed at the moment. And our hope is that we can sell the lot in 10 days. So that basically we are selling every day. Water is one of the most important factors of production on the farm. And here at Nature's Farms, we have 2 water tanks, each of them holding 10,000 liters. And we pump the water from 400 meters down in the valley. We pump it using 3-phase electricity. It's brought up by that pipe. It's a 50 millimeter pipe, 1.5 inch. From here, it is filtered, because the water must be filtered before it goes into our drip irrigation system. Otherwise, you may end up blocking the holes. It's filtered, and then we have another pipe going back that serves the farm. Part of it goes into the fertigation tanks. Those are smaller tanks which we use when we are giving the plants additional fertilizer, which we dissolve in the water and then take to them. The other one goes direct, and that is pure water that we also give to the plants. The fertilizer is like once in a week. The rest, every day, they receive pure water. And part of it, down there we have a system in the greenhouse, but also systems of irrigation outside. Each block, we have blocks. You can't irrigate the whole garden at once because it's slanting. If you switch on the whole irrigation at once, the lower plants will get water, the upper ones will not, because of the law of gravity. So that is how we operate with our water. So here we have a 16 by 40 meter greenhouse, which has red and yellow sweet peppers. So half of the house is yellow peppers and half is red peppers. We transplanted them Friday and yesterday. Saturday we transplanted them. They are going to be here for 3 months before we start picking fruits. And as they grow, we'll put these strings down and the strings to support them as they grow. Each of them will have a string supporting it up. When we start picking them, we're likely to harvest for about 5 months, depending on how well they yield. Sometimes even longer. We mostly sell them through Nakaselo market. So to reach our customers, one is social media. Nowadays we have WhatsApp, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, we have Facebook. So we post our products on there, and people who are friends, social media friends, they reach out to us and place orders, and then we can deliver to them. But the biggest market we have is going to Nakaselo market, because it seems like most people go to Nakaselo market for their vegetables. So the hotels, we have also visited the hotels, and they have redirected us to their buyers who buy in Nakaselo. So often if Serena wants to buy, they cannot take from us every day, but whenever they need, they send their person. So we call that person, or that person calls us, and we find them at Nakaselo and we give them, and then they take to the hotels, they take to the supermarkets. Then we also sell to the Nakaselo vendors, who in turn sell to final consumers. The sustainable methods of farming we use is making sure we use natural organic fertilizers, which I've shown you already. We also practice what we call farming God's way. In scientific terms, we can call it zero tillage. So what we do is we make furrows, like where we plant maize. We make furrows, we plant in there. So all our manure goes into the furrows. So every season we plant in the same planting stations. So we've not used tractors on our farm. We only do shallow digging with hand hose. Because you see, when you use the tractors, they pulverize the soil. And then when it rains, most of our topsoil washes away. But when you just use the hand hoe and keep it shallow, because most of the roots will grow, they don't go beyond 30 centimeters. They are within about 10-15 centimeters. So that's the soil that we mostly work. So how we stay up to date with the new innovations in agriculture? We are in touch with researchers. Like our manure, we are in touch with Makerere University. That helps us. Actually, we buy the microbes from them to decompose our manure. I'm also a scientist. I studied agriculture, so I keep researching. Sometimes I Google things up and I find very useful information. Like there was a time many of our flowers were falling off on the bell peppers. I Googled it. I found it's probably because of too high nitrogen. Then I call other scientists to confirm. And after confirming, we found a solution for the problem. The advice I can give to young people looking to starting vegetable farming, you have to be committed. When you do this business, you need to be available. It will not work if you just think you will send money and use telephone to grow. You need to be available, at least to be able to visit and see what is going on. Your eye, as we said, the farmer's foot is the best manure on a farm. You need to be there. You need to be hardworking, and you need to be patient, because the length the plant takes to grow, you cannot shorten it. So you have to be able to wait it out. And then I often say it is better when you are starting out in the farming to have another income source, because there are certain unforeseen challenges that come up when you are setting up in farming. So if you cut all your other bridges where you're getting income to say, now I'm beginning farming, the season you have entered might be a bad one, and you may lose all your capital. So you need to have another source of income while setting out, and start small and then use the profits to grow, rather than getting a loan, for example, and starting in a big way. If you fail, you'll fail big, and you might maybe be disappointed and discouraged and never to try it again. But if you start in small steps, it's likely to be the right way to go. At least that's what I did. Yeah, the new plans for our farm, it is Nature's Farms, and we have different locations. At one location, we have plantation crops. Those are the long-term ones. We have macadamia nut trees. We have apple trees. We recently started with apples. We went to Kenya and got Wambugu apples. We are growing them. Then we have coffee, gonja, and matoke. So those are and we have an acre of mangoes. So those are the plantation crops, and those will go from generation to generation. Once you establish a coffee plantation, it will last maybe 50 years. So even my children will continue with that. For the farming we do here, the urban farming, the vegetables, I'm going to grow them here maybe for the next 5 years. So eventually the horticulture might also move to the big farm in Kasanje. Now, what I find most satisfying about vegetable farming, or farming per se, I love farming. I just love being in the garden and seeing things sprout and grow. And being a part of that process is very satisfying. On training of other farmers, we do that gladly. And quite a number have been reaching out to us, and they have come for training, including organizations. You can reach us by phone. Our addresses are also on Google. So if you want to come to Nature's Farms Gayaza, for example, Google Maps, our name is Farmer Joe Gayaza, Kabanyoro. If you want to come to Kasanje, it is Farmer Joe Bugogo Kasanje. We are on Facebook as Joseph Muyeti, Instagram as Joseph Muyeti, and my phone numbers, I have Airtel and MTN, is 0750169599. And the MTN is the same number, but the code is 0782169599. Yeah, so those are our numbers. And I'm very grateful for you watching our story. And I look forward to welcoming you at Nature's Farms, Gayaza or Kasanje. Thank you very much.